Man, wouldn't it be nice if you could find a monitor, a transmitter, and a receiver all in one device and it didn't cost you a lot of money? Luckily, there's this, the Hollyland Mars M1 Enhanced. This little sucker packs 3 completely unique functions into one beautiful little package. And I think it's one of those things that if you are on a set, you're gonna wanna get something like this because it could completely transform how you approach working with clients and small teams of people. Now, I don't think there's any doubt if you work with any kind of camera equipment, you quickly discover right away you're gonna need some kind of monitor on your camera. It just makes a difference in your ability to monitor scopes, get a better view of what your picture is. It just is a better production experience. But the other thing that you really find out that you need once you actually start making money from your camera is you need to be able to share that image with multiple people. And this is where things start to get expensive, bulky, and hard to put together. Now, if we're gonna talk about the Mars M1, let's go ahead and start off talking about the most basic function that it is. And that is, this thing is a on-camera monitor. Now, the M1 is a 5.5-inch 1080p 1000 nit monitor, which means that this thing is gonna be perfectly bright to go and shoot outside. It gives you really, really great resolution. And I think the first thing you notice when you pick up this display, at least I did when I got it, was just how sharp and crisp this thing is for monitoring. I mean, this is a great tool really to help with focus and exposure accuracy. And the overall build quality of this thing feels really, really solid. It's a good metal construction. It has a 1/4-inch screw here on the bottom and on the side, so you got good mounting points. This thing feels like something you can go and take on some sets and it's not gonna break down on you. This has an HDMI in and HDMI out, but for a budget monitor, this has something that I just love to see, and that it has an SDI in. This is something that means that I can use this with my Red Komodo and other high-end cameras. And SDIs are just one of those things. They're so much more reliable than HDMIs. They break so much less. Just really, really nice having this option. And just so you know, if you do have this SDI, it will cross-convert out to an HDMI out. So I have this on my Red Komodo. I'll put it on my Red Komodo, and then what I'll do is I'll actually send the HDMI signal out to an EVF if I want to have that. Now, the other part of the build quality I do want to talk about is going to be the power options here on this little device. So of course that means you can power this with a traditional NPF battery like I have right here, which works perfectly great. I'm sure you have a ton of these sitting around, but it also has a DC in tap right here. Now this is actually a locking barrel connector, which means that it's very, very secure. One thing I liked about this is this does come with a DC to D tap cable, which means that you can plug this straight into a V-mount battery, which really tells you that they know who their market is, because once you're sitting there and working with any kind of devices and wireless, monitoring all that stuff, you're probably gonna have some V-mounts in your rig, and I just really loved how stable it was, and having that cable was a very, very nice touch. The other thing that I found really, really interesting is that this M1 Enhanced has a DC out here that actually allows you to power other devices, like you have a small onboard light or something else. You can actually plug it into your actual monitor itself and actually go out there and monitor a second device. So it actually will run power through, which is one more thing that you want if you're trying to keep your rig streamlined. And that's really what the M1 is about. It's about keeping your rig as streamlined as possible. Combining all these functions in one and doing it really, really well means you have a lighter rig. It means you can get built faster and get on set and start shooting. Now, one other note about the power of this thing, because this is a transmitter and a monitor, you need to be aware that you are going to be going through power more quickly than if this was just a standalone monitor. Now, the great thing about the M1 is they do give you an option in a menu where you can turn it into a standalone monitor just by itself if you're not transmitting for whatever reason, and this will let you get pretty much normal battery power like you would from any 5.5-inch monitor. But if you are using it as a transmitter or a receiver, just know it is going to affect your battery powers, which is why this locking barrel here for the D-tap connector makes so much more sense, because once you put this on a V-mount, you can pretty much run it all day. You're not gonna have any real problems with it. Now, this monitor, aside from looking really good, has a lot of really, really valuable tools that are pretty critical for production needs. And I just wanna go over them real quick as you look at it. Now, you can tap right here, and it's gonna bring up a really simple, kind of intuitive menu system. And you can see you have a lot of things you have on here. You have waveform, you can have histograms, you can have vector scopes. And what I love about this is you can click on any of these and just move it around as needed. It makes things very, very simple and very, very easy. I can just have that. And what I really like about that, if I want to come back here and let's say I want to make some adjustments, you have a lot of customization. So I can come here like my waveform, for instance, and let's say I want to make it bigger, I can make it a medium I can make it small, I can adjust the transparency of it, or I can adjust the intensity of it to get it so it doesn't really bother me that much. I kind of like that. I might pull it up here in that corner. It's just a nice tool, and then I can click it and it goes right on. And as you can see, it's got a number of tools that you would expect to see on any given thing. It does have waveform, it does have a histogram, it has vector scopes, it has zebras. You can sit there and dial in your zebras to get your lower IRE and your upper IRE to get exactly what you want. And it has focus peaking, and what I love about the focus peaking is you can set the sensitivity of it, or you can also set the color to find something that you like. If you like white, if you like red, you can do that super easy. And of course, the one thing that I think every monitor should have, it does have false color. It has a very simple false color display, and you can see it's got very, very simple colors, very, very easy to go on. False color is one of those things that's absolute game changer. Every monitor should have that. You should kind of demand having that. You can come in here and now you can basically set your aspect ratios. I have 16:9 now, but I love shooting in 2:3:5. And you can see now, I can pull that up. It gives me the nice 2:3:5 marker. It's just really easy to set in there. And I can go there and do what I want. Or if I wanted a custom one, I can sit there and do a custom one. It doesn't really matter. So I have a lot of freedom like that. And then you can actually come in and you can load LUTs. Now, if you look here, you can load up to 5 custom LUTs. So this can be like a Canon LUT. You can kind of see up here that this is my Canon C-Log LUT right here. Or I can create my own LUT and import it via a USB input right here on the camera itself. There's also a flipping game. You can flip it upside down if you're in a situation where you need that flipped. And there is a nice grid system as well. Now, I really like this because you can basically have just a center hatch. If you're someone that likes to have a grid, you can put a grid on there. You can do a 4x4, 5x5, or 3x3, and you can make it, if you want a certain color that works for you better than other, you can make it whatever color you want. I tend to like white, and personally, I love having a crosshatch, center hatch. That's just something I tend to always have. And then you can do a zoom and push in right here, which is really nice. And this zoom can go all the way up to 4 times. So you can really zoom in and see exactly what you're doing. Very, very responsive on the thing. One thing to note about this doesn't have a native zoom app. You do have to come and tap in the zoom thing to tap the zoom. So it does have a tap to zoom. It's just, you just got to make sure you hit the button to do that. And it does have an anamorphic de-squeeze in here as well. And as you see, you can actually have a whole range of different anamorphic options to go. So it's a really, really nice component to have. Now, the other tool that this thing has that I did find slightly strange because of someone that's coming from Athens is the fact that it has a record and it has a play button. Now, you got to understand, this thing is kind of unique. There's no way to put like an SD card in here to record. There's no hard drive in it. It's basically got a small bit of internal memory. So if I hit record, it will record, but it'll only record for about 2 minutes. So what I can do is it's basically just there, I think almost as a reference guide, but you can only record one thing. You can do a maximum of 2 minutes on there, and then every time you restart it, it's going to basically reset whatever the picture is. So it's not really a practical tool for recording thing. I think it's more there as a reference, but it is something to be aware of, because I know when I started that I was kind of confused. Like, oh, it's got an internal hard drive on it. And it does, but it's super small and it's got a very specific purpose for existence. Now, when you come over to the top here, you can see a couple things. If I hit the top, it gives me a nice little range. I can set, obviously, my brightness. I can set the colors. You can see in the system here, I can set up whether I have my Wi-Fi. I can actually set my fan speed, which is really, really nice. I can set the volume. And I can also see my information, but here is where the real magic is. It's in the wireless function here on this monitor. And so that really leads me now to the second major function, and actually the third function of this, because they kind of go together, and that is the transmission and receiving components of this little monitor. And before I get into setting up the transmitter here, I do want to talk about reliability, because this is one of those things that is one of the most understated yet most important aspects for any piece of equipment, but especially for wireless video transmitter. You just need the system work. You don't want to set it up and then have to waste time on set trying to get your wireless system to connect. And as someone that has used a lot of different wireless systems in the past, I have really found that the Hollyland systems, they are just very, very reliable. And once you set it up, it pretty much works all the time. And basically, I can come here, and if you see on the top, I can click anywhere on the top, it'll bring me right here to this menu, and I can come to my wireless function. Now, the first thing you're gonna notice is that I can cut this wireless function on and off. Now, this is very, very important in being able to get you to save battery power. So if you're not using this, if you don't have to transmit this, go ahead and cut that off. It's gonna greatly increase your battery life. Now you can see I can set this up as both a transmitter and a receiver. This is absolutely fantastic. As you can see right now, I have this as a receiver. I've got a camera back there that's on Baby Yoda, so I'm on that, but I can transmit for that. I'm gonna look at that in just a second. But if I come back here now to my wireless, you can also see, in addition to setting it as a transmitter or receiver, I can choose between 8 channels to go from. So it's very, very easy to find a channel that's clear, give you no wireless issues. Now, if I do have a wireless transmitter or receiver, I can scan it, or if I need to do it, I haven't done it before, and I can just simply pair this with one of the other Hollyland wireless monitors, and it's going to basically find them right away. I had no problem whatsoever pairing this with the Hollyland systems that I had. Now, when I transmit, I'm gonna switch this over to transmitter just to show you. So it's gonna basically say, do you wanna switch over to transmit mode? I'm gonna say okay. And then it's going to reset and it's going to restart the monitor very, very fast. You can see it's super, super easy and quick to go from that transmitter to the receiver. And now that I turn this into transmitter, I'm just gonna go ahead real quick. I'm just gonna put this here on my camera. And now, boom, as you can see, I've got a situation that I have a monitor, it's all ready to go. And what I love about this, I have a wireless transmitter. In addition to the monitor, I have a very, very sleek, ready-to-run system. I'm gonna pull up my Hollyview app, and what you're gonna see here, if you look at the Hollyview app, I have all the tools that I had on the monitor, but I have almost all of them right here on my phone. So what's really cool about this is I can sit there, I can pull up my waveform, I can pull up my histogram, I can pull up my vector scope, you name it, peaking, all that stuff, I can do it right here on the phone. And this is really good because not only can I transmit this to another camera, or if I need a big monitor, if I have someone come on set, I can easily do this. And let's say I have a client does this and I don't want them to do it, there's actually a lock button here that I can lock it. And now if you look here, you can't access any of that, but if I unlock it, now I have a really powerful tool. This is actually fantastic too if you're doing gimbal work, stuff like that. It's really, really nice having all these tools to what you need to go and have in there. So I did find the Hollyview app to be very, very intuitive. This device can transmit up to 4 smartphones or tablets via the Hollyland app, or it can basically, if you have another Hollyland receiver, you can actually sit there and turn this into a transmitter and it'll go on any monitor that you want. In addition to that, you actually have a third option where you can turn this into a receiver. So you can put an actual transmitter on your current camera and hand this to a client, and now the client can sit there and have this and look exactly what you're doing if you want to have that situation. And there's certain benefits to having the ability to transmit both to an iPhone and to a monitor itself. Obviously the iPhones are great. You can have a client just download the app and they're going to be able to go, they get a real quick idea of what they're doing. But having the ability to transmit to an actual physical monitor like this, what's nice about it is the client doesn't have to worry about finding a Wi-Fi signal or logging in or starting up an app. You can literally just hand them this and the client can sit there and comfortably watch a really, really nice crisp thing and they know what they're getting. There's also one other thing I would like to mention about this, and that's that the Mars M1 comes with this cool little additional add-on where you can actually have this little kind of wooden handle. I'm just gonna put it on just as you see it. It goes on there super easy, just a couple of screws of an Allen wrench. And then I can take my Allen wrench and I can actually store it here magnetically on the side, but it makes a great little handle here for your Mars M1. And this is really, really nice as a client monitor. You can give it to the client and they can sit there and hold it. It's very, very comfortable. This looks professional. Now, when you're talking about any wireless transmission system, the other thing you do got to talk about is going to be range and latency. Now, this Hollyland Mars M1 Enhanced has a 450-foot stated range on the monitor. Where I find this is really useful is, honestly, there's not going to be a whole lot of times where you're going to be 450 feet away from your camera. But where you are gonna be is in a building where you have walls and other stuff between you and the signal. And you want a signal that's got some punch to get through all of that stuff. I've been using the Hollyland. I haven't had any trouble in normal size houses, punching through walls, even getting on the other side of the house. Now, the other part of a wireless monitor that you have to bring up is going to be latency. Now, there is a 2-frame delay, about 0.08 seconds, or about 80 milliseconds here on this monitor. Now, let's talk about that from a practical standpoint. I think what you're gonna say is that if you're using this as a monitor, especially as a client monitor and team monitor, this delay is not going to be an issue. If you have basic moves and simple things, I think you could get away pulling focus with this as a monitor. I do think the latency, if you have fast moving objects like that, the latency could be just a hair slow that is going to cause some problems. But honestly, the way I'd see needing something like this, especially with the autofocus system in cameras so good nowadays, this for me is not a system you're going to be getting as a full focus monitor. This is really a client and team monitor, and that's where this really excels. But just be aware there is a little bit of latency there. It's not bad, but if you're thinking about getting this purely for follow focus, you may just be on the edge of what you can get away and not get away with that. Now, no product is perfect, so whenever I do a review, I always like to talk about rooms for improvement, just so you're aware of any strengths or weaknesses of this, and hopefully help you make a decision if this is something that makes sense to put in your kit. Now, for me right now, the biggest room for improvement, I think, of this Mars M1 is just, I think the record function on this thing, it just feels kind of gimmicky. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The fact that you can record 2 minutes on there, but it's 2 minutes only, one clip, and then it resets every time on there. I don't really see that much of a practical purpose for that, seeing you can record on your camera and just play it back and be fine. But all things considered, I think this Hollyland Mars M1, this was something I've been personally looking for a long time. This completely changed how I was able to access content for my clients, because there's so many times I would go, especially on smaller sets, where I just didn't have the time or the wherewithal or even the batteries to set up this, plus a wireless follow focus and everything else. And having my monitor, which I need, and a wireless follow focus that can just send to someone's phone super easy, all in one device, the convenience of this, the price point, the quality of this, it's just a really fantastic product. I could not be happier with this. I feel like this is one of those things that if you get it in your kit, it's going to make a huge difference and really help you make more money down the road, because your clients are going to appreciate this and want to hire you to come back because they know exactly what they're getting and they're happy to see it. Anyway, guys, I'd love to hear what you have to say with this. Leave me any notes and comments down below. And yeah, go out there, keep on shooting. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.